y'all, my name is Annie and welcome to my channel, Eat, Drink, and Be Reading. And today we're doing a wine and book pairing where I talk about intoxicating reads for an intoxicating bottle of red. Okay, as you guys know, I love wine, and one of the things I want to do on my channel is pair books with wine. And for me, this is all about the experience of drinking the wine and the experience of reading the book. And like, what do they make me feel? What flavors do I experience, if you will? And today's bottle of red that I want to talk about is a red blend. It is a Merlot Cabernet Syrah blend. So while this is a very specific bottle of wine, I would imagine that most Merlot and Cab blends would do something similar. This is the Jack's Vineyards 2006 Y3 Taureau bottle. And it was excellent, really enjoyed it. And the very first sip I had, I knew, oh, this is a perfect bottle to pair with some books. And I even, as we were sitting there, asked my husband, what are you experiencing as you drink this bottle, like this glass? And he took a few sips and thought for a minute, and he said, it's intoxicating. And by that, he did not mean like it is making me drunk. Just kind of not how we roll in our household. But just kind of all-encompassing, overwhelming, you feel it everywhere, intoxicating. And for me, my first kind of feeling was that it was complex and felt like it was very intricate bottle of wine, but it was also very accessible. It was not very tannic. Like, oh gosh, it just started pouring rain, so I hope that it's not too loud with the skylight. So yes, it wasn't very tannic, is what I'm saying, which is like when you can feel it kind of at the back of your throat, the top and back, and it's kind of like makes you go. But there wasn't a lot of that, so it was very accessible, complex, yet accessible and intoxicating. So those felt like really bookish words, like words you can use to describe an experience with the book. And so today I'm going to give you, I think 7-ish, I'll try to be kind of quick, books that feel the same to me, that made me feel the same way this red blend made me feel. These books are intoxicating. Most of them take place in one spot, so you feel like you are just enveloped in the setting. And they have something deeper going on than what's happening on the surface, but they're not hard to read. You don't feel like you have to read every sentence several times or take it very slowly to fully grasp everything. So, that's one is actually a short story collection, and it is called The Tsar of Love and Techno by Anthony Marra. This takes place in Soviet Russia during the Chechen War, and it goes back and forth between this small Russian mining town in like northern Russia, lots of snow, and a mine-laced field in Chechnya. And it follows this art restorer who is censoring art for the government. And there's a pair of brothers who get separated. One goes to war, one kind of dilly-dallies. A woman who, and her family, and this woman makes it to America, but eventually has to come back. And what does life look like for her and her mom? And a girl who grew up in this mining town that ends up marrying very well, but has a connection to one of the brothers and to this piece of art. There's a piece of art of this field, this mining field, that we keep coming back to. There's a mixtape between the brothers that we keep coming back to. So this is the one where it kind of has two different places, but man, do you feel enveloped, even though this is short stories and it's different stories and different people that are connected. The location is mostly these two places, and man, do you feel like you are there, like you are in the apartments, in the snow, in the industrial waste of this mining town, and do you feel like any moment you could step on a mine and you're just full of fear for these soldiers that are trying to find safety in Chechnya? Yeah, you just feel enveloped. And then there's this painting and this artwork. And so when you mix a story and art and music, what's more intoxicating than that? Book number 2 is Bel Canto by Anne Patchett. This story takes place at the vice presidential mansion in an unnamed South American country. They are trying to bring some sort of company business down to their country to help with the economy. And so they invite all these kind of international diplomats and well-known people to a party at the vice presidential mansion. There is this opera singer who is like the best in the world that's there to sing. And so they're having this party. Everyone's beautiful, dressed up. And terrorists, like this band of terrorists, come into the mansion. They are looking for the president. The president has stayed home because he didn't want to miss his favorite soap opera. And the terrorists hold all these people hostage for weeks. And so it takes place in this mansion for weeks. And it's about the relationships that form between the hostages, as they are just feeling like they have nothing left, as they are getting sick or lonely or terrified. And the relationships with the negotiators, and even some of what's happening with the terrorists and why they're doing what they're doing. But it's all-encompassing. Like, you are there and you feel like you're there, that you are sitting on the floor in a fancy gown, and that you've been in this gown for weeks. And so it just, I think because most of it takes place in this mansion, it has this intoxicating feel. And just Anne Patchett's prose makes you feel like you're there. Moving right along. Book number 3 is The Likeness by Tana French. I think Tana French is pretty well known. In the Woods is the first of this series. It's the Dublin Murder Squad series. They do not have to be read in order. But the main character in this story was in the darkness, in the woods. And there's a murder, and the victim looks exactly like Detective Cassie Maddox. And so she goes undercover as this girl. They tell her friends that she was just really, really hurt and was in the hospital for several days. And then they bring her back to her home where she lives with 4 other friends in this old house that they're slowly refurbishing and my mind is gone blank, but when you fix up a home. And she goes in and she has to try and play the part of this girl, get to know her friends, and figure out, first of all, who is this girl? Because they realize pretty quickly that she's not who she says she is. And they're guessing one of these friends is the one who murdered her, and trying to figure out who it was. It's dangerous for Cassie because she could get caught. But she also she kind of forgets who she is. Is she Cassie? Is she this girl? And forms really close relationships with these 4 friends who are all very quirky and intoxicating. You can see why they are all friends, even though they're all very different, and it forms the setting is really formed by both this home they live in and the characters themselves. And they are an intoxicating group, and you are on your seat wondering what is going to happen. And it is just beautifully written. So I liked it a lot better than In the Woods. I Wasn't sure I was going to read any more Tana French. I liked In the Woods fine. But this one was excellent, and I can't wait to pick it. Book number 4 is The Great Alone by Kristin Hannah. This book is really well known. A lot of people have talked about it in the past, especially when it first came out a couple years ago. I love Kristin Hannah. She is one of my favorites. And so I won't spend too much time on this, but The Great Alone I feel like is intoxicating because, again, of the setting. You're in Alaska, and Alaska almost becomes a character in and of itself. And Kristin Hannah does such an excellent job of taking you and putting you in this place. But she's also talking about hard things like PTSD and family relationships and love and loss and change. So it's, again, complex yet accessible. It's very easy is not the word I want, but you read it and you don't want to put it down because it is, complex, accessible, and intoxicating. Book number 5 is The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. I talked about this one in my Star Wars Day recommendations as well. It's a young adult, it's like contemporary / kind of fantasy novel about Alice, I believe is her name. And she and her mom have kind of been on the run their whole lives. Her grandma wrote this book of dark fairy tales called The Hazelwood. And she has these fans that are obsessed. They think the Hazelwood is this real place. And so they try to find Alice and her mom throughout their lives in order to get to her grandma. But one day her mom is abducted and she doesn't know where she is. She enlists the help of a boy at her school who is a big Hazelwood fan, and together they go off and search for her mom, and they do find the Hazelwood. It is this real place, and that's really where it becomes intoxicating, is in the Hazelwood, because it is creepy and weird and beautiful all at the same time, and the people who are there are creepy and weird and beautiful, and it feels like this whole, it is this whole other world, and you feel it, but you feel like it's real, like you could reach out and touch it, which again is kind of this intoxicating feeling as you're reading it of just being enveloped in the story. Book number 6 is Beartown by Fredrik Backman. This is my favorite book I've read in the past few years, mostly because it introduced me to Fredrik Backman, who is my favorite contemporary author. And Beartown is the story of this small hockey town in Sweden. So the small town in Sweden is all about hockey, and they're all kind of united around hockey. And this town, including all the characters, almost feels like a character in and of itself. Like the town and all of its people are this one united thing, and they feel like it's them against the world, particularly them against the bigger cities in Sweden, that they are stronger and better fighters and everything because they've grown up in a very hard place to live. And something happens to the daughter of the hockey team's manager, and it has to do with one of the best hockey players, and it creates this rift in the town. I've never experienced an author that is so capable of being empathetic to every character, even the characters that you don't like or the ones that are making terrible decisions. You understand them. You understand why they're doing it. And even if you don't necessarily feel bad for them, you get it. And it is so complex in that way, in the way that you just understand everybody. You feel like you're in the heads of every character, and that no character is all good or all bad. There's so many shades of gray, yet it is a book that you keep flipping the pages because you want to know what's going to happen. It is a complex character study that is also a page turner. And I absolutely last book before this gets too long is the one nonfiction on here, and it is Say Nothing, a true story of murder and memory in Northern Ireland. It's by Patchett, Radden, Keefe. This is one of my favorite narrative nonfictions that I've ever read. It is intoxicating is really the word for it. It is the story of the Troubles in Northern Ireland, where it was the Protestant versus the Catholics, but really it was less about religion, more about nationalism, and you had the Protestants who wanted to remain with the UK. You had the Catholics with the IRA who wanted Northern Ireland to be national, like the Nationalist Party to separate, be on their own. And it starts out though with this abduction of this mom of 10 children. Everyone sees it happen in this apartment complex, and the men are masked. Everyone's sure it's the IRA, that they believe that she is communicating and helping the other side. And 5 years later, these bones are found on a beach, and the children are pretty sure it's the bones of their mom. And it is harrowing and gripping. You're getting to know the different leaders of the IRA and their family histories and their personal relationships and what they're willing to do for the sake of the nation that they want to create. Some that are good and some that are bad, and it's this guerrilla warfare. And man, do you feel like you're on the streets in Ireland? It is fascinating to me that I did not even realize this was a thing. And the only part I even really knew was U2 Sunday Bloody Sunday, and that's I don't even think I fully knew what that was, other than it took place in Ireland and was a lot of death. And so it is just, and the fact that it was not that long ago, guys. This was in the 90s. The 1990s, early 2000s, and it is, gripping and intoxicating, and there's people you maybe want to pull for, and yet the things they're willing to do you think are too far, and what is too far, what is worth your cause. It is the powerful and powerful, harrowing, gripping, written so, what's the word? You can't even put it down. I usually listen to narrative nonfiction on audio, but I got this one from the library on my Kindle, and it read like fiction. It was so easy to read because I just kept wanting to turn the page. So, guys, that is my first wine pairing video. I thought it was perfect to wear this shirt. The color was like wine or Merlot or something is what they called it. So it's perfect shirt for the video. This wine is great. I'll make sure I write what it is down below. It's not the cheapest wine, but it's not terribly expensive. But and these are all books I really, really enjoyed that gave me the same feelings that drinking this bottle of wine did. Hey guys, I wanted to pop in because I always forget to say this, but if you liked the bookish and winey goodness and you want to see more of it, if you want to talk about books with me, if you want to talk about wine with me, let me know in the comments below what you thought, if you've read these books, if you like red wine, if you want to see more pairings, and please, if you haven't yet, like and subscribe. Bye, y'all.